Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Brendan the RPG Cat. Tonight, we are doing Modeling K. We are going to be uh, painting models, miniatures that I got as part of the IDW Batman the Animated Series board game. And so I'm going to introduce you to those in a minute, but first things first, let's go ahead and let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Um, this stream is brought to you by GreatMedia.Games. For inexpensive TCG single cards, visit Great Media Games and use the code 10finity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and let's get started. As always, I am summoning Mage Hand in order to do this. And so, let me take a moment to show you some of the Batman minifigures I've already painted. And so this is probably going to be a little bit blurry on the screen, but this is Batgirl. And so, it's probably just a slightly lighter color blue than Batgirl would usually be, but it is really just out of the model paints that I already own. And so, I've painted the base yellow just to indicate that they're a Bat family member. And you're going to probably see me, paint bases different colors based on what kind of game pieces that they're supposed to be. And then second here, we have Batman. And so Batman was quite literally the very first thing I painted in this set. And so, I was able to get the yellow logo and the slight black bat symbol on that. That really did take some doing. And so jet black on the cape, but metallic silver for the outfit. So that's interesting. Here I've got Detective Harvey Bullock. And so this is probably a little bit lazier with this one, is that I did just paint him straight brown when I'm sure that his suit in the animated series is like gray or something like that. So I might go back and I might repaint him. His base is blue because he's part of the Gotham Police Department. So also another member of the Gotham Police Department is Detective Jim Gordon. And so, so this is a little bit more accurate to what Jim Gordon wears, is that I just kind of probably got lazy and painted Harvey Bullock with the exact same colors. Here I have the Penguin. The Penguin is painted in a black suit with a gray dicky and also just a black cap and a white cigar, and he has a red base. And so he's one of the non-affiliated Arkham Asylum villains, and so those get red bases, while the Arkham Asylum villains are probably going to be green. And let me see. Catwoman. Catwoman, extremely easy because all I had to do was I had to take the gray primer, and then I just had to paint the black areas, and then her yellow belt and also her cream colored whip there. And so her base is black because she's unaffiliated. And then this is Catwoman's cat, Isis. And once again, really, really easy to paint because the base paint was already gray. All I had to do was do the ears and eyes. And so that's everything that I've put together so far as painted figures. Oh, well, I also have these 4 heavies. These are 4 heavy enforcers. And so each of them I have painted in a different color because I basically not only is that useful in differentiating who the pieces are when you're actually playing the game, but it also helps you to reuse paint that you had used for a mainline character that you don't want to throw away. And so that's the reason why this one has the very deep red color in it, which I believe I had used for the Penguin's base, and then this one is silver, Uh, that silver was originally what I used for Batman's uniform, and then the yellow hat and the yellow shirt are because I also use those colors on Batman. And so these are the other two. So red suit and pink hat, and blue suit and red hat. And so what I have on the side of the so what I have put aside to paint during tonight's stream is that I have two more of these enforcers, as they are just 100% gray, and you can see that these are in a different pose that were in than the ones that I had just shown you, and that there's a reason for that. Is that these are enforcer figures that came as a Kickstarter bonus. So the was really the Kickstarter bonus was to give you some of the enforcer figures in a different sculpt, and that's what these two are. So all these figures are currently gray, or either gray or white, because they have been primed and then ready for me to actually do a paint session with. Okay, so I also put out Robin because I feel like every single one of these streams should just have at least a main Batman character. So yeah, Robin is completely white at the moment, and so I decided what color to prime them, based on how bright their colors are going to be. So Robin's going to be wearing bright reds and yellows and greens and blacks, and so that is really what this is supposed to be. So I decided to give him the white primer so that he'll be able to work on that. I also put aside Zatanna. Zatanna, everybody knows, is a DC comic superhero, is a stage magician who actually uses legit magic and uses the occult. And gray primed because the majority of her color scheme is going to be black. Then I have the Gray Ghost, which I think is going to be another easy color simply because the base of his color is supposed to be gray. It's really just the fact that his gloves, his shoes, and his cape are going to be colored black. But the great majority of them is going to be gray. So the Gray Ghost was just a one-off character in Batman the Animated Series. This was a stand-in character for Adam West, the original Batman. Playing an out-of-work actor who became a vigilante one time in order to help Batman. So the last couple of figures we have, they're generic pieces again. Okay, so these are two bears. The bears go along with Red Claw. So there's a scenario in this board game that is based on the episode The Cat and the Claw, and the Red Claw was a exclusive villain in Batman the Animated Series who was basically a Russian KGB spy who sicked two bears and two panthers on Batman as part of her villainous repertoire. And talking of which is that I do have the two panthers right here. They're both primed white. I don't know why I primed them white. I'm more than likely going to paint them black, but here we are, all ready to be painted. So I think for starters, probably the best character would probably be the Gray Ghost because it's really just going to take a little bit in order to paint him. And so I'm going to need a color for his face. I am going to need a color for his and then just a black for his cape. For his cape, for his buttons, and for his shoes. So let me just go ahead and let me put that down. Let me get out the flesh tone and let me get out the color black. So the flesh tone I'm using is Elven Flesh from the Army Painter War Paints. Very good brand of model paint. Oh, well. Let me just try to use the tip to mix that around a little bit. Because it did come out just quite a bit oily. That's not helping. I'm waiting for it to get through the oil, then I can actually get to the paint part of it. Look at all that scuzz. Okay, now we've got paint. Get rid of all of the separation of water. So use the same bottle and let's soak that up so all of this doesn't dry out too quickly. Say, even model painting has its ugly side. So I have just a whole fleet of brushes right here, and so they're just over here to the side. And so I'm going to want something just very relatively thin and relatively pointy, so I'll effectively be able to paint the small area of the Grey Ghost's face. So, you know, time to start moving things closer so that it will be a little bit more helpful to myself. And take my water for watercoloring. Probably not going to stay in that position. Alright, so I'm going to do this while trying to keep this pointed to the camera as much as I possibly can, but I do also just need to take care of the fact that I am working in the very, very small scale. You know. And I don't pretend to be anything especially I don't pretend to be anyone especially talented when it comes to model painting. I'm just somebody who is trying to, complete this set in a way that is accommodating to my future board game playthroughs with this Batman the Animated Series set. And so you'll see me, making a lot of smudges. There's a great big one on the shoulder right now. And so I might actually go back and I might paint over that in order to make it a little bit more palatable. And so, yeah, that's really just all the flesh tone that we're going to be using. Enough flesh tone for the entire, just for the entirety of his face, while still leaving the majority of his figure gray colored. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to find our pitch black. Let me see. So I've got a couple options for black. This one's called Ebony Flesh for some reason. Not entirely sure that that's pitch black. It's probably the darkest flesh color that I have. So I do have my primary colors usually come from an official D&D paint set, and so I'm mostly just looking for that, looking for the ones that have those black tips on them. Let's see here. That's a dark green. So you've got to be kidding me that I don't have a black in this set. I don't believe that. Let's see, what's this one called? Say the bottle is very faded. I think it's called filigree silver, and I'm probably going to need that in order to repair this in a moment. Let's see. Okay, I think I found it. So yeah, this is out of the official D&D paint set. This is called Abyssal Black. And so this is the pitch black that we're going to need. put a few drops of that into the paint palette. This one seems a little bit on the thin side. So, you know, the separation is not as bad as the flesh color that I just put out, but it's bad. It's bad. I don't mind telling you that. You know, it's bad. It's bad. You know it. Alright, so I'll take a moment to pick up the figure and look at the detail again. So, I think where I accidentally left the smudge is actually on his cape, and so we might just be able to cover that with a bit of black. So, I'll start by picking out a very wide part of where the black will go and then just testing. No, you know, I do feel like the water there is a little bit thin, but that's okay, because we're more than likely just going to be putting a second coat onto it. Alright. So, let me take this, let me shake it up a bit more. Trying to do that a little bit close to the mic so you can actually hear me really shake that tiny little paint bottle. Alright. Okay, now we're starting to get into the thick of things. So, I've been on a lot of model painting forums, and model painting forums that are specific to the board game that I'm painting at the moment. And they've told me that they've looked at some of the other paint jobs that I've done, and they've said that, you know, probably one of my biggest drawbacks is the fact that I tend to make my paint a little bit too thick when painting miniatures. And so, yeah, that is all duly noted. Alright. Alright. So, just put that over his shoulders. Try to do as best I can in order to cover up that area that I painted on accident. Okay. Game Bunny says, I hate when paint separates. I work in a paint store. Yeah. I'm sure it's a much bigger problem when you're dealing with things like house paint or craft paint. You know, here it's just kind of a bit of a fridge problem. It's the fact that, you know, I've got this tiny little bottle and I better remember to shake it really well. Otherwise the paint is not going to come out well on my palette. Alright. How are we doing? Alright. Okay. So I did see that there was a bit of a hiccup in the feed there. I think it's all right now though. Okay, so now I should paint his gloves and I should also paint his buttons. All right. So thank you for tuning into the stream, Game Bunny. How are you doing tonight? See, just paint a little bit around his glove, so only his glove will be covered, and not the gun too, because I want the gun to be gray. Then to the other glove. And it's not bad. It's the first official day of my week off. Well, congratulations. I took this week off, but it's because I was sick. I didn't want to give anybody in my office this thing that people have been complaining about for 5 or 6 years now. Okay, so I'm going to start doing his buttons, and those are black as well. Alright. Okay, and so those are his buttons. And so, from what I can see is that, the interior of his cape is also supposed to be black, but I don't think I like that as far as contrast. So, what I would like to do is I'd like to pour a deeper gray, and I would like to make that into the interior of his cape. So let's see. I picked out this gray, but I think that's kind of a light gray. This is kind of a brown. Probably you want something a little bit deeper. See, that's a brown too. Let's see that if I just have a particular gray, these are Batman characters. You have to work in black, or you have to work in really, really dark gray. It might be interesting to use silver metallic because, well, actually, I don't think that this is really, this is truly silver. This is just mithril silver colored Dungeons and Dragons paint. I think very recently I actually just threw out all of my metallic accented paint because I never really even used it all that much. Oh. No, this does have a silver to it, so yeah. Just slightly. Alright, so it's getting a little hard to hold this character, so I'm going to use another tool that I brought out. So this is a figure holder. And so what you do is you just kind of stick it to the top. The top has tacky putty on it, and so the tacky putty will hold it in place. And so try to get it pretty deep in there because the tacky putty is a little bit hard. And so now I've got my metallic silver paint. I want to paint the interior of the Grey Ghost cape. Alright. And so that's, it's virtually the same color gray as the gray that I used for the primer. But it is providing, it is filling out this space. It is making for a good accent for the interior of his cape. Oops. Alright. And so I can go over some of the areas that accidentally got painted black. Alright. Okay, that's very good. Alright, so I do need to take a moment to go back and get that other gray paint because I'm going to need it in order to cover up some of the areas of black that I had put that are not part of his cape. Alright, what is that? Fluff pink. Crown. Well, Why do I do this for myself? I put the bottle away before I decided to use it. Alright. So I'm going to take that. Let me put that aside for a second. Uh-oh. I think maybe the entrance to this portal is a little bit too plugged, so I'll just go ahead and take off the tip of the model paint bottle, and I'll pour it straight from the bottle onto the palette. At least if you're in that situation, at least you know that your paint is not going to run out, because it's already plugged the entrance of the model paint bottle. Alright, so just take a little bit of this gray and say just paint this area of his arm right about here. And so this is what a neat feature of this handle is that I can just use my thumb and I can just rotate the figure. I keep my hand in the same place. Okay, and then paint over that, and then so when that dries, it's going to be approximately the same color as the other one. So I want to take over, yeah, just paint over these two, because I think I could stand to make those buttons a little bit more stand out a little bit better. Okay. See, does he have a black brim around his head? I believe he does. And so that's really going to be it. I'm going to need to switch my paintbrush for that. Red the Rabbit says, sorry I'm late, been drawing up a storm. Good work on the mini painting so far. Physical painting isn't my strong suit. Well, it's not my strong suit either, but you know, it's fun to do, you know. Maybe someday I'll get better at it as a result of doing it a lot, but, you know, in a more general sense, I'm just enjoying it. So I got this set from, this is an IDW Adventures Batman the Animated Series miniatures game set. And I got it as part of a Kickstarter. And, well, as a result of the Kickstarter, there were ordinary figures, there were stretch goal figures, there were bonus set figures, and I bought just the main figure set. But as a result of buying the main figure set, I cursed myself to the prospect of having some 200 minifigures, all of which that, you know, I decided to add spray primer to and make an earnest attempt at painting them all. So probably one of the, even the reason that I'm doing this segment is that it's necessary. It's necessary in order for me to actually finish this Sisyphean task of painting all the figures in the Batman board game set. Also, you should never apologize for being late, is that you can absolutely come in anytime that you want. I do appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support that you're always giving to the channel. So, thank you very much for coming in. What else has been going on? How have you been doing? Let me see. I'm painting the shoes at the moment. I'm not doing a never mind towards leaving paint on the base, because I'm probably going to paint the base black at the end of it. 200 figures, holy cow. So just by doing a count of the figures in front of me, I'd say I've painted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 figures. And Grey Ghost will be the 12th one. And so here I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start the business of painting the rest of the base black. I'm doing pretty good overall, taking creative advantage of my day off for drawing. Just one more issue to go in my series, and then all the line work and dialogue is done. That's good. Something that I wish I could do more often. I wish I could finish some of my projects. Alright, so I just want to go back and I want to put those 2 more dots for the buttons. I'm using a slightly thinner brush this time, so I think this is going to go a lot quicker. I won't have to cover anything up with any more paint. Alright. Okay, that's pretty good. And so potentially I could do something with the mask, but it's a little bit hard to do because it's a very minute detail. So at least for as far as the stream is concerned, this is going to be it for the Gray Ghost. That's basically what the final paint is going to look like. I do like the metallic paint in the interior of the cape. It might also be pretty snazzy looking if I were to take that same metallic paint and I were to color his gun that. So let me do that. So that's going to stand out a little bit more because I've put some silver on top of his gun. I don't have any other characters with guns in front of me, but you know, I would if I did, you know, I'd be using the same palette, so I'd probably be doing the same thing to every gun. I see that there's a gun on Detective Bullock. Commissioner Gordon is holding a gun, but I had already painted that one black. Well, I suppose, yeah, Harvey Bullock is holding a gun too, and I painted that one black. You can call that police standard. So, you know, that in the end, that's a Gray Ghost. The majority of it is still made up of the gray primer that I used in order to paint him. But you know, there's some good details here. I like the jet black cape, and then I also like the metallic interior of his cape. And so there's just one little corner I thought I saw is that I'm going to need to gray in because it's just a little bit too black on this shoulder right here. And go back and paint over that, so that'll be covered up. We'll cover that up, and like Bob Ross used to say, that'll be our little secret. Alright, so let me take him off of the base and put him aside to dry. So we're probably going to be going up in terms of difficulty here. So according to, just the box art that I have in front of me, these bears are supposed to be gray colored. And since I've already pulled out the gray for the Gray Ghost, then I can just go ahead and I can start painting this one. And so I could make it. I can make it. I can change my mind about that. It doesn't have to be a gray bear, just because that's what it looks like on the packaging. I think I could make it a brown bear. Maybe I'll do one of each, so that'll help me differentiate which bear is which. So something else that I do is I take a magic marker and I put a number on the bottom of any of the generic character figures. So this one is bear number 1 when we're playing the game, and this one is bear number 2 when we're playing the game. So maybe I'll paint bear number 1 gray and I'll paint bear number 2 brown, just in order to create even more differentiation. Let's see. Once again, way too much water in this paint bottle. Let me give that a good shake. All right. Smart idea. It's such a smart idea. I forget to do it every time before I actually do any painting. So any good model paint kit also just kind of comes with a single empty bottle, just like this one. So if you need to just kind of take some of these junk areas that are just filled with water, and you need to suck away the excess portion of the paint, that's what this empty bottle is for. I always keep this one very clean, is that I clean this out probably better than I clean out my own brushes and my own brushes, just so that I can have the privilege of using this in order to clean out my palette. So, as I had said, bear number 1 is going to be the gray bear. I mean, I can just go ahead and say, well, I made it into a polar bear. And that's what I tell the people when I'm playing this at tabletop. So. So there's a tendency to, take some of this and, well, when you're doing things like when you're choosing primer, then that's kind of a crapshoot, because you don't know whether or not what color some characters are going to be. You don't know what color that this bear is going to turn out being. And so, so when I made the decision to batch paint all of these with primer, I made this bear white. And I thought it could be any other color, but now I'm just painting it gray. I could have gotten away with just using the gray primer, and that would have been that. Lesson learned. I mean, it's significant because, at least when people look at this figure, they'll say, well, that's a painted figure. That's a figure that Brainy painted. And so these are easy figures to paint simply because they're larger than the ordinary ones are. And so I might, when I finish this and then when I do the bases, I'm probably going to do a red base, just like I did with the penguin. So I'm doing what I can in order to use, this is a white tip brush. And so this is good for covering, just very broad areas and doing, figures that have single colors like this one. It's a little bit of a pain when you're trying to get into some of the nooks and crannies of this figure. Alright. There's some areas of this that are turning into a patchwork. But then I just kind of brush over them again a second time while the brush is still semi-dry. And that goes away a little bit. He's really covering his bare bottom right now. So some of the hardest areas are to paint are some of the areas with the detail. Like he's got this whole area of brown just underneath his neck, and it's hard to get the paint in between those areas. And so I can see a little bit of his bear claw is still white, and so is the area on his back leg. So yeah, just paint the sole of his foot right there. Alright. Let's get the inside of his foot. See, that's probably one of the hardest areas to coat just because it's like between the inside and the back of the figure. So I'm already running out of just a small amount of gray paint that I had put out just by painting this one figure. Alright. Okay, so that's good for a coat, I believe. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to set him down, and then I am going to pick up the other bear, and since I've already laid out the brown paint for him, I'm going to paint him all a single color while the other one dries, and then I can go back and I can see how I want to do details on both of those figures. Alright. So yeah, I want him to be the brown bear, so. Mix that up really good. And just start the process again. Just me covering the bear. His mouth is open a lot wider than the other bear because, you know, it's very likely that I'm going to be coloring the insides of their mouths with a nice shade of red. Alright. This is getting a little hard to grab right in the corners of this because of how close the feet are on this side of the model. Try to paint that little area that's really just on the top, on the surface of his belly, behind his right front leg. And then the back of this foot. I mean, the thing that the next hardest thing about this is that if I'm gonna paint the base, you know, I'm going to have to get back into those very tight corners again, and then I'm going to have to fill it with red paint. Alright. So, I believe that is pretty well coated. I'm going to set that one down. And take a moment to think here. What am I going to want to do with my palette? Am I going to want to keep this palette intact and then just walk over and get another one? Or am I going to want to rinse it out and am I going to start over? So after I paint these guys, I'm going to need to paint these two Jaguars. And, well, I might want the gray for the Jaguar, but not necessarily the black. Or, you know, I could just paint one jet black and that would be an easy way to do it. Okay, well, I'm going to do that at least for one of the figures. One of them is just going to be black, head to toe. So I do believe, yeah, I put numbers on the base of these figures here. So this one is number 1. And so I'll paint the number 1 all black. Alright. So I do believe that both of these are the same pose, even though the bears weren't. Alright. Let's see, I'm not even sure how much black paint I have right now. Red the Rabbit says, I've got to get off, Brady, but thanks for streaming. Well, thanks for coming in and visiting the stream. Red the Rabbit. Check out Red the Rabbit on Twitter. You know, I do a shout out, but my hands are clearly full at the moment. So deceptively one of the easiest, but easier than the ISIS one when I only had to paint the ears and the eyes. ISIS, of course, being Catwoman's pet cat. Alright. So I want to make sure that, you know, I do provide an even coat with this without making it too thin, because if it gets too thin when it dries, it's going to be gray and patchy. Billy Lee says, hey, the Billy Lee. Thank you very much for tuning in. How are you doing tonight? the underside of the tail needs to be painted here. So it's perfectly okay for me to make the mistake of painting the base as one, because the base is probably going to be black anyway. Just chilling since brand practice was cancelled. How's the painting going? Well, I'm doing some very baseline paints at the moment. I painted these two bears, and then I have these two jaguars to paint. And this one I've just decided to paint black all over. And so I'll probably go back in and put some details, give it some yellow eyes, give it red, paint the interior of the mouth red. At least for now, just do the single solid coloring. We just completed the Gray Ghost, which is once again a very simple paint, because we're mostly just using the gray primer and then painting some details like the cape and the gloves. And we use a metallic paint for the interior of the cape, so that's very snazzy looking. Because I don't think the figure is getting patchy, but I do definitely think that the base of the figure is getting pretty patchy. Just continue to coat that until it, until it makes a much more solid single color. Well, it's good that, if there was any good paint left in that palette, that it was it was used for the figure and not the base. Alright. Let's take that, move that from the holder and put it aside. So let me think, what would a good color be for the other one? Maybe something that's kind of like a mountain lion yellow. Maybe even go back and paint some cheetah spots on it. Let me see. Once again, I'm looking at my flesh tones for this. Okay, this is a marigold yellow. Okay, so marigold yellow. Give that a shake. Okay, so take that and then put it into one of the palette sections that is a little brown, and that's going to make it a little bit of a deeper color. See, that looks like the perfect color for a mountain cat. Alright. There we are. So in the end, I am happy that I decided to prime all of these animals white, because I did make a few bold decisions about what final colors they were going to be. Alright. So once again, not too concerned about painting the base, because I'm going to paint over it in black. Alright. Put that one down. And so I am going to take a moment. I'm going to get up. I'm going to choose another palette, so that I can start using some more primary colors. And then we're going to paint Robin and Zatanna. So I'm just, well, you're not going to see me get up, but I'm going to get up. You're probably going to hear my voice get quieter as I walk my way into where I keep my paint palettes. And just come over here. Snag another one right out of the closet. So you probably didn't hear me say that one because my head was in the closet at the time. Alright, so second palette. You know, you managed to get like a set of these off of a website like Amazon for $6. Once again, it's probably not the acumen of a true model painter, but it is definitely, you know, affordable and convenient. Alright, so I don't personally think that I have a good color model for Robin, so I'm going to look one up really quick. Let's see. Robin, Batman, TAS. Alright. Just find some images. So, I think this Robin is probably the more interesting one as far as color is concerned. Because I believe that, yeah, the interior of his cape is yellow, the exterior of his paint is black. And then, you know, his tights are green. And then I believe that he also has boots that are black. So, trying to see if I can find one that, you know, best encapsulates, you know. If I were painting the one from like the new Batman Adventures, then a lot of the green would disappear, and his character would have mostly been then his character mostly would have been black. So yeah, so the best picture I have is actually an action figure, so that's a bit ironic. Alright, so let's take that. So once again, we want to take a look here. So we're going to start with flesh tones again. Yeah, and so this is Robin, you know, primed, not yet painted. And so I definitely do not want to use a white bristle brush anymore. Let's try to use this arc brush. This would probably be very useful. Alright. So, mix that up really good because it's turned slightly into the pigment since I have exposed it to the air. Alright. And just start to dab. It's very lightly and using these very, very short dabs in order to paint the flesh area of his face. Alright. tried slightly to paint her in the area around his mask because I don't want that to meld too much with the face. I'm going to have to paint the black of his mask back in. Alright. And I'm going to have to paint his hair that same color black as well. Because I'm using a much deeper, well, since I'm using a slightly older paint, it's a lot thicker and it's kind of sticking to the edge of my watercolor right here. Alright. I don't know how much black I can still glean from this palette, but I'm going to do my best. Alright. Okay, I believe that coats most of his hair. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the black paint, so I'm going to put in just a couple more drops of it. All right, there we go. So you can see that I painted the top of his head, but it is bleeding a little bit, and it's starting to drip down a little bit. So I might have to give all of that a little bit of a coat in a moment. Okay, next largest black area is going to be the back of his cape. All right. It Takes All Grinds says, "Yo, Brainy, I'm lurking." Well, thank you very much for tuning in. It Takes All Grinds. Takes All Grinds recently did have a test charity stream, and I did make a small donation to that. As that, effectively just trying to figure out, how well Twitch's version of the charity the charity meter, the charity Twitch-based charity system works, and I salute him for that because I want to know how well that works. If it works well, then I would like to use it for my own stream. Alright, so now we've got to do the interior cape around his neck, and this is a little bit harder to do. Alright. And so I don't know how well this little arch brush is going to be when it comes to doing these really, really tight corners right here. It forces me to hold it in a funny way. And I got a significant amount of paint on his glove and on his nose that I didn't want to. But oh well. We'll go back and we will fix that in a moment. So I know that I'm going to want his boots to be black. At least try to keep this relatively clean because I want the base to be yellow for a Bat family member. So let me put that down for a second. This is starting to get intricate, so I'm going to put the handle on in a moment. First question I have to ask myself is, where did I leave the handle? Okay, here it is. Okay. Let's take Robin and let's put him right there on the top of that. Let's pull out a yellow for the interior of his cape. So you want a pretty primary color. I've got the official D&D angelic yellow. Alright. Let's see. Well, now that I'm away from the face, it's probably not a good idea for me to keep using the arch brush. I should pick out another brush, something at least a little bit more wide, but not so wide. Alright, I'll do the interior of the cape. And probably one of the things that really makes this Robin. I mean, yellow is really just kind of a difficult color when it comes to modeling because it always coats on very, very thin and needs multiple coats in order to get up to the right consistency. But you know, we're painting comic book characters, so what are you gonna do? This is a tough one. Get that area of his cape that's between his legs. Alright. So that's the first coat of yellow. There's still a significant part of it that's white, but that's going to need to dry off before I give it another one. I could potentially paint the yellow on the inside of his tunic, but I don't think that that's really going to work right now. I should actually get some red and prepare myself to do the actual paint. Alright. So this one is really, really leaking oil, so let's plug it up again. Let's shake it a little bit harder. It could be that, you know, this bottle of paint is incredibly, unfathomably, unmistakably separated. Okay, so think I'm starting to get the pigment. Alright. Alright. So let's start to paint. And so this is a little bit hard to do because, you know, it's really just his tunic that's red. His sleeves still have to be green. And so I've already painted a significant section downward. Well, let me double check this. I think his sleeves are also supposed to be red, but it's his sleeves are his sleeves are supposed to be green. Yeah, his sleeves are supposed to be green, and so are his gloves. So no, I can't paint that. It would be easy to paint that, but I'm not going to paint that. That's how I decided to do that. So I've got a significant amount of red paint just bubbling up around his torso, and I don't want that. Alright, so while I'm waiting for that to middle out, I am going to go back here and I'm going to put more yellow on his cape. Hopes that this is going to coat the way that I want it to. That's getting a little better. Probably gonna need one more still. I brush off too much of it before it dries, and it's going to make another big white patch that I'm going to need to fix. Starting to meld in with the black. So I need to take a little bit care of that for a while. Wait for that to dry a little more and then go over it for that third coat. So I noticed the last time that when I looked at my example that I am going to have to do just the smallest part of his arm in flesh color. It's really hard to do the underside in that situation. Okay, so that's one part of the arm. And the underside of this one. This is the hard one. Just like that, just enough so that it connects to the top half. Alright. Okay, let me set this down for a moment. And then I'm going to have to pick out a color green. You see, that's a gray. And that is a white. Let's see. Brown, yellow, red, gray, blue, red, brown, and a green. Here we are. Yeah. Once you know it, it's the very last one. So once again, this is one of the official D&D paints. These are the most primary colors that I have. That brush has the tiniest tip on it. I'm probably going to want the second tiniest. See, this brush is a little dry too. And just give that a little bit of a dab. Okay, now time to start doing the green. Alright. Then I have to do the interior of the arm, which is so intimidating at this point, I'm not going to do it right away. Let's see. Put the green of his sleeve on there. And you can see it. Very bright compared to everything else. And now his gloves. Alright. Can't paint that green. I'm still waiting for the red on his legs that dripped onto his legs to dry, because once that's dry then I can paint the green over it. So let me take a little bit of the flesh and then I'm going to do a little bit of a fix on his face right here. Just paint away some of the black areas that drip down from the top of his hair. And then later on I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to paint his mask black again. I like that prospect. Alright. Okay, there we are. I haven't even gotten to the Joker yet. The Joker is going to be an excursion. So for some inexplicable reason, yellow also just kind of takes a really long time to dry. Okay, well, I'm going to start doing some of his pant leg. I see there's a part of his boot that I did not paint. I'm going to have to fix that. So it's starting to look a lot more like Robin. Okay, grab that little bit of the black and let's do the interior of the boot right here. There's a part of me that just wants to poke him in the eye and start doing in the mask, but I want my most minute brush for that detail. I'm having just the hardest time with the coloring on the interior of the cape. Oh, and I just mixed a red into that. Okay, this thing is probably going to need some heavy duty. This is going to need some heavy duty drying. Wait for a lot of this color to dry off before I complete that one. So what does that leave me with? That leaves me with Zatanna and 2 thugs. So I'm trying to think about, what color that I can possibly paint the thugs, because I want to make sure that they have exactly this. They have different colors on each figure. So thug number 1, more than likely going to have a green hat and possibly a yellow suit, but a yellow suit that's the same color yellow that I painted the mountain lion. All right. So this is a little harder to do because I believe, no, actually, the original ones were also primed in gray. So never mind, that's not actually true. I should have done Zatanna right after I did Grey Ghost, because they would have shared a lot of the same colors. See, this doesn't mesh as well with the yellow that it doesn't mesh nearly as well as the whites as it did with the white. So I always tend to do this, choose the same color as the coat as well. And so I'm not worried about painting the base, because the base is going to get painted black. Alright. Alright. So that's the yellow overcoat. So I'm going to want to take some of that silver again, and I want to start covering up the areas of his pants, which I probably shouldn't have colored. Alright. And so I have a little green, I have a little red, so I'm going to try to see if I can make his... Well, first thing I should do is I should paint around yellow around the hat. So then once I paint the green over it, then the brim is going to be yellow. I should, yeah, mix this in a little bit. See, paint his hat, paint all around. So I'll take some of the prominent amount of flesh color that I've already put out and paint his face and paint his hands. Alright. So there's a good amount of his shoulders isn't painted. Alright. Let's test out some of this green. I might want to get, yeah, my smallest paintbrush width for this one. Alright. Bring in some of that green. Paint the top of his hat. And then paint the brim. Alright. So top of his hat is now green. And then try to paint the inside of his shirt, which is really hard to do because everything seems to be in the way of that. So this looks great except for the splotch of green that's right on the front of his face. Okay, so where's my flesh tone again? Let's fix the front of his face. Let's try to paint his hands. I try to paint his hands green, make it look like he has gloves, but it's not the way anybody else looks. Alright. The last thing I would need to do is put him onto the handle and then paint his base black. See, I wonder how I'm doing as far as black paint is concerned. They made that kind of greenish. I think I just ruined that. So I'm going to have to wait to give that another coat, and I got to give it another coat in the mountain lion yellow. Alright, what does that leave us with? Well, it means, I think I would say at this point, there's 2 figures that I haven't gotten to yet. And I might just kind of save them for next week. I'll wait for an opportunity to see if some of these figures are going to make a comeback. I definitely want to finish Robin today. Okay, taking the smallest and I'm putting the green on it. And then start to do his pants. Alright. Alright. Okay. I'm definitely going to need more yellow. Where did I put my yellow bottle? Okay, there it is. Let's go ahead and let's put it in a new section. Alright. Let's try to see if we can finally fill in this cape. This has been the hardest simply because of how many colors have spilled over right into the yellow. And so take a lot of that yellow and then fill it out and turn the base yellow for the Batman family. A significant amount of black on the base. Let me just see if I can wipe that off. I'll be careful about that. Alright. So this is going to probably get worked over a second time, but in a more general sense. I do believe I got the colors coordinated. And I think I blotted out the green again. I'm going to need more of that. Well, I put it off for too long. I'm just going to try to get really close in, and I'm going to dab in the mask. Almost looks like he's wearing a cowl that way. and go back in and start to dip in the flesh color as well. All right. Well, I've done a lot of damage here. Let me just go ahead and let me put Robin aside again. So let's take some of our previous characters. Let's make some. Let's color in some bases. I was waiting to break out the red in order to do this, and I have broken out the red. So now I'm going to do this. All right. I didn't think that this was going to be easy. All right. So red base for one bear. Red base for the second bear. All right. And then a black base for the mountain lion. I think my black is completely and totally dried out at this point. Let's see, cover this as best as I possibly can and then go back and do another coat later. So a good amount of my paint is already getting spent at this point, so and we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, so now might be a good time to call it a stream. You know, we've done a significant amount of work. We've moved the needle significantly on many of the figures that we were working on, and so let me take a moment and let's do a brief recap of everything that's been painted so far. Once again, this is Batgirl. This is This is Batman. Okay, this is Detective Bullock. This is the Penguin. This is Commissioner Gordon. This is Catwoman. This is Catwoman's cat Isis. It's a very tiny figure. So 4 heavy weapons grapplers. And we're adding to that the Grey Ghost. Um, we're adding Robin. Okay, we're adding another heavy grappler. And we are adding the two bears. This bear. This bear. Oh, jeez. I'm having fidgeting problems. And then a Black Panther. And a Yellow Mountain Lion. Alrighty, everybody. So, I've learned a few things. One is that my left arm really gets tired when I do this, but... and so I really, honestly, I do enjoy model painting. Like I said, I'm probably not the best person to do this. I'm probably not the neatest person to do this, but, it's still something that I enjoy, and, I look forward to actually making a completed version of this entire set one day. So, anyways, thank you for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. Well, I remain Brainy the RPG Cat. Thank you to Red the Rabbit. Thank you to Game Bunny. Thank you to Billy Lee. And thank you to It Takes All Grinds for tuning into tonight's stream. You guys are excellent. Thank you for being here. So, to appreciate the model crafting that I have been doing tonight. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. So, next week, I am going to be here on Tuesday for my regularly scheduled Yu-Gi-Oh! Playthrough with members of Great Media Games and Rocky Mountain Pro. But after that, I'm probably not going to be on again until this coming Friday. And this coming Friday, I believe, I am going to be doing another tabletop lore stream. We're going to be talking about some of the issues that have recently popped up regarding the Spelljammer books that were recently released by Dungeons and Dragons. So you should watch out for that. So all of my information is on my Twitter page, and also you can see the schedule on the front page of my channel, twitch.tv/BradyTheRPGCat, whenever I'm not signed in. So anyways, thank you everybody for tuning in. Once again, this stream is brought to you by greatmedia.games. For inexpensive TCG single cards, visit greatmedia.games and use the code TINFINITY at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Alright, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm going to be doing a raid now. Let me see, who would I like to pay a visit to? Let's see. Let's see, Twitch. Who is on Twitch right now that I can do a raid of? I would like to pay a visit to... Well, right now, let's go to see Lasgar Luckman right now. She's in the middle of playing golf with your friends. Let's start out by giving her a shout out. I think that's the way that's spelled. Let me double check. Lasgar. Okay, so start out with a shout out.
Small crawl. I need an adult. I need an adult.
This was when she was playing in, just a gigantic. Oh no, actually, I'm not too sure about that one. But anyway, she was playing some Uno. She hasn't played Uno lately because she's really concerned about how.
It's just showing me like nothing.
Ubisoft servers have been affecting her game and her connection with other people.
I saw the invitation.
But anyway, somebody made a clip out of that. Anyway, so we're going to head over to Lasgar Logman. She's playing golf with her friends. Maybe you'll get an opportunity to join in with her game, but... Alrighty then, so... Well, once again, I will be here tomorrow night with my regularly scheduled playthrough of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. It Takes All Grind says, sweet. Yeah, sweet. Yeah, we're going to go raid Lasgar now. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'd say I'll be back tomorrow for that playthrough, and then I'll be seeing you this Friday for another lore stream. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Everybody have a good night, and thank you very much for watching.